people source their house managers from wanaitangwaje watu wa brokers. Are they called
bureaus? House girl bureaus, yes.
There are so many advertisements in town as you walk along that way. Oh, we provide trained house managers. Call us on this number. And then the story changes. They come to your home, Eli. Then you pay for their transport and you pay 2,500 to have them come to your home. And then anafanya kazi siku mbili, anatoroka. Pesa yako inapotea. So getting a house manager from a reputable source is very, very important. How then am I supposed to pay you 15,000? Do you want to put me in a position where I have to disclose my salary to my house manager so that they can accept to work with me? So if you're asking things of the person who is coming into your home and you have said my capacity is this much, the person who is willing to work with this much, then they can come in and they work with that much. But we cannot say that house managers must be paid this much.
And good evening. My name is Likuyani Eli, right in time for the family edition. More than ever, I'm glad to bring you this edition with a very interesting panelist tonight, because we are more about mental health as we celebrate, rather try to do the activation for the May month, which is the Mental Health Awareness Month. So stay right there, be ready to interact in the comment section, and more importantly, share, like, invite your friends. Without further ado, my guest for the night, equally the speaker in this sitting, Miss Victoria Nkatha. Good evening, Victoria. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. This is a very interesting day.
You know what is more interesting about it is that young people are speaking about issues that are predominantly faced with the older generation, as they say, but we are realizing it's more and more into the family unit and in the young people's capacity. And that's why I'm glad to have you here, from responding to live to family edition here on TheArtsinHeart. Good evening again.
Good evening. I'm very, very excited to be speaking on this topic today, because, I mean, you said it rightfully, as in young people are speaking on the older people's matters. But to be honest, in the generation that we're in today, to be able to understand some things, we also need to understand how young people are coping, because much of our elderly generation, they weren't handling or dealing with issues that we are dealing with today. And it's very, very confusing to see the things that we are actually handling at such a tender age, because the world has become so connected these days. And at that point, the only thing they had to deal with is going to the shamba and then, enjoying life. It was a very simple life, whereas life today is very, very more complicated. And with complications comes other things as well. So we are people who are well equipped, to say the least. So I'm very, very excited to be discussing with you today.
Definitely, Victoria. And I want to take you back to some statistics that was carried out last year by InfoTrack in Nairobi, Kenya. And this statistic showed that 81% of the population feel anxious and stressed about what is happening. On the other hand, the research equally showed that 61% of Kenyans feel lonely. And 52% of the same population feel helpless, and 33% feel very angry. And do you know why? Because of the corona pandemic. Moving forward, at one of the media briefings, the CS, that is the Cabinet Secretary, Mutahi Kagwe, said that there is a silent, invisible killer that is affecting our nation and the globe. I quote, Mr. Kagwe went on and said, COVID-19 had affected Kenyans' lives, and particularly their mental health, in ways untold, end of quote. Victoria, just from that publication that was made almost a year ago, that is in the month of June, and courtesy of Nation Media, of course, what do you make of those statistics and the details we get them in vis-a-vis what we have in the family situation today?
They are quite outrageous, to be honest. And just to add on your statistics, one of the things that was stated by the World Health Organization was the fact that we are dealing with yet a second pandemic, which is the family situation. And not only the family situation, there's with family situation, there's domestic violence, there's financial constraints, there's a lot in regard to that. So we're dealing with the second pandemic, which is very much family related, aside from us dealing with the COVID pandemic. Now, with those statistics, we can already tell that there's a problem, there's a big issue, there's a greater issue. And funny thing is that, or not so funny, but one of the things that we have also observed is the rate of killings that is also happening in our country. The rate of suicide also that is also happening in our country, and the rate of people who are distressed and also going into different outrageous solutions. And this is something that is really, really a second pandemic, I would say, just as World Health Organization put it. So with looking at what is there, already we know the cause, and we are now getting into the effects. We're realizing that the family situation is getting very, very disturbed, to say the least. With that, we're having one of the biggest issues being the financial constraints, which is caused by people who have left jobs or rather have lost their jobs. I wouldn't even say left, because it hasn't been voluntary. It has been because of the pandemic. Sole providers have had to leave work simply because there aren't resources enough to be able to cater to paying individuals anymore. And already there we have a problem.
Even as you talk about the providers, Vicky, I want to think about it from the child's perspective. What happens to a child in that family setting where all of a sudden the lifestyle has to change and they have to do a lot of restructuring? And how exactly do you start as a parent or as a spouse to actually tell your partner and your children that, you know what, this is what is happening. We're going to have to squeeze our budgets. We're going to have to, move out to a smaller unit and, fix life. How do you go about it, Victoria?
So the first thing, and I'm taking this from how much research has been conducted and World Health Organization, because I really do go back to this organization a lot when it comes to matters mental health. So one of the things is that a lot of people don't understand or believe that children can undergo stress and stressful situations and also be anxious. Now, kids do get stressed, and they often exhibit their stress by becoming anxious, or you realize that your child has withdrawal symptoms as well. Your child becomes angry or agitated, and they throw tantrums, a lot of tantrums. Kids really react in very many ways once they're stressed, because a child doesn't know what is happening and how they should respond to what they're feeling and what they're going through. And especially most of us who come from the African culture, we cannot even imagine starting to explain or even imagine our kids becoming stressed, because one of the things we would ask, why is this child stressed? You look at yourself and you're like, this child does not pay any bills. We know this from our parents. You're told, why should you be stressed? You do not pay bills. You're not paying school fees. You're not doing this and that and that. However, you don't realize, as you rightfully put it, that change of lifestyle, change of your own behavior and your own response will equally affect your child as well. And this child may not even know what situation is that. You may know how to maturely and effectively deal with it, but your child, on the other hand, doesn't even know what's happening and doesn't understand what is going on with their body. And that's why they resort to certain behaviors and outrages, right? So with children, we need to also be very, very attentive, especially in a family situation. I know that it can be very, very hard, but as a parent, you have to also be attentive to your child and your child's behaviors when you yourself are going through these things. Remember also the fact that you're stressed and the fact that you are going through a tough period, would easily, and I say this very, very cautiously, easily move over to your kids, and easily and also subconsciously. Number one, parents don't realize that they, and I'm speaking also from personal experience, parents don't realize that they subconsciously start behaving differently. Yes? They don't realize that their behavioral traits start changing. Maybe you start reacting more. So you start shouting a bit more. You start getting agitated, and you don't have time for your child anymore because you yourself are dealing with something, right? So subconsciously, you don't want the stress of this child. You are completely fed up, and you are trying to deal with it. And here comes the child. Maybe the child is looking for somebody to play with, looking for your attention, and you probably can't give it. This is where the child actually needs more attention, right? So already there, we have established that.
Great, Victoria. Interesting facts you're mentioning. Even as we continue with the discussion, remember, you can join the discussion in the comment section with the hashtag #ArtsinHeart responding to live. As we continue forward, we want just to bring in more the financial aspect, Victoria. And why I'm pardon me. Why I'm interested about it, this is based on the conversation we had some time last week with very own Nyokabi GK Kamau, who is taking some leave tonight. Let's just listen in and see what we discussed last week.
What if, and majority of Kenyans, I don't know whether you saw on Facebook these statistics that had come out, that they're saying the minimum wage of Kenyans they earn is 60,000 or 75,000, and the middle is 100,000 and something, and then the highest is 600,000. And I was thinking, which country, which Kenya, where do I live? I was asking everybody, what do they mean? These statistics were metoa.
I think you've been adopted elsewhere, Nyokabi.
Ukiongea mambo ya pesa unanifanya sukari inapanda.
Typical African parents that will tell you, when you talk about money, you're messing with my blood pressure. Kindly, I need you to take it from that angle. What factor does money come into play? Of course, we've mentioned earlier on, but what factor does it really play in such a situation? Cognizant of the fact that right now, everybody's golden thumb rule is kuna corona and kuna pandemic. Yes. Pandemic imetumaliza. That's the talk.
That's the excuse for everything these days. And as Nyokabi rightfully puts it, when you start talking about money, my pressure goes high, simply because, I mean, we're living in a situation where life is getting more expensive, more and more expensive. Resources are no longer there, as we are told. And we get to a position where money is everything. Even at Biblia inasema, money is everything. And I can prove that. For those who want me to prove it, I can prove it. Even the Bible says money answers everything. And at the end of the day, it gets to a point where money makes the world go around. And when you have to deal with everything that is life, when you think about, I leave the house, I will spend minimum 1,000 shillings, right? Even me, when I leave this house, I love to sit in my house, because the moment I leave this house, I will spend some money. Something will happen, whether it's in the form of fuel, because that is also money, whether it's in the form of I have to have lunch, whether it's in the form of me paying for a ticket, bus ticket, it is money I'm spending. So money is everything. And that's why sometimes our parents, I understand our parents, but at the same time, sometimes they're also exaggerating. Money makes the world go around. The moment you even think children, you think money. The moment your child even comes to you and daddy, the first thing that clicks to your head, money. It's like you're seeing somebody who's just a nini of money walking around in your house, especially when you don't have it. You see as if the child is you see these things for sadaka.
They're coming to collect the offering.
The offering for collectors in church. You see as if your child has turned into that kind of thing. Every time they come, daddy, daddy, you sing, it's as if you're going to put some money in there. So, of course, sometimes I understand them and sometimes they exaggerate. And to be honest, during COVID, now that there is lack of money, is when we are also understanding the importance of money and the fact that we probably took for granted some things. This is when people are now thinking, I should have saved. This is now when people are thinking, I should have done this, I should have invested, I should have maybe looked at my job opportunities, I should have looked at. People are looking at ways which they would have made their situations better due to lack of money.
Well, we can never finish the money debate, and I understand that. Let's quickly just go to the comment section, see who is there and signing in. Kindly, when you're signing in, try to, say one or two things about the topic of discussion and what you feel about it. It's a very interesting topic because we get to talk about issues that surround everybody. Remember, the edition is the family edition, and tonight we are talking about letting out the stream. And while letting out the steam, it's, we are all bagged with issues that are happening around us. And, life has taken some strange turn of events since COVID happened. So in the comment section, Robert Njuguna Wamai, thank you so much for joining. Jose Jay-Z, Miss Jane Mugure, thank you so much as always. Thank you, I appreciate you. Vini Vinchezi Champagne, karibu sana. Peter Njuguna, Karumana Samueli, Alan Dungu, Kerry Kezi Brown, Suleiman Trawali, Dennis Muruti, Frederick Philbert, Johanna Korir, Wycliffe Gaddafi, as always, karibu sana. Thank you for the news about the loss of Chelsea. Noreen and John Donga. So let's keep the conversation going in the comment section. Let us know what you think about this. And remember, we are doing this edition with the fact that this May is the month of mental health awareness. So how are we coping with the issues that are happening at home? And I bring in Victoria to actually help us through to walk through how then do we try to adjust and cope. And Victoria, my question to you will be, it has happened and you've announced it, and you're trying to figure out things. The first point of it as a man, probably, if you're a provider, is to say you will figure things out and you will fix it. But then with time, you start realizing that you are actually not making it as you thought you're making it. When do you admit that things are not working out, Victoria?
I think also from when we were having this discussion, I literally said that it from day one, once you realize that the ship has sunk, you don't try to see how deep it will sink. You find help. Or rather, once you even, not even sunk, once you realize water is starting to come into your ship, you have to not wait until you find out how deep it will sink before you actually seek help. Because at the end of the day, the hole might be bigger than you actually think. And you don't want to find out how big the hole is. And the earlier, the better. I always say that it's not a weak thing to actually seek help, not even from a point of you are okay, but generally, even when things get a little bit tough, it is important, very, very important, to have people around you that can be of help, that can be of assistance. In case anything happens, I can call on Ellie and tell Ellie, you know what, by the way, this thing is, even from a normal perspective. And I love what even the men were discussing in the men's den. And they were talking about how men don't really, talk about certain things, but they have to get to that point. And this is where our African fathers come in. They don't like admitting when they are not okay, because society has made it such that a man should not speak on what they are feeling and speak on when things are hard. I was in a space on Twitter Spaces the other day, and this man said, you know what? Don't cry. No woman wants to see you cry. Well, reality is yes, no woman wants to see you cry. However, it is okay to cry. And when push comes to shove, it is okay. Because at the end of the
where
day,
should you cry? Should you cry in your silent room and say silent night songs?
what they were referring to is any situation. Umegonga tu na meza unaanza kulia. Umesikia broken unaanza kulia. Unasikia nini unaanza kulia. That's the problem. And the thing is that at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, there are some situations where even honestly, it will be okay. And it is okay to say that, fine, I am not okay and I need help. I need help. Don't even leave alone crying, but those words, I need help. Do you know how hard it is for a man to state those words? It is so difficult. I was speaking to a young man the other day, and this young man is going through quite some time. And this is a friend of mine, not even somebody that I'm helping or anything like that. He's going through quite some fixes. And I personally had to tell him, can I come in? He said, wait, I'll fix it. Next day he tells me, oh, I have not found a solution yet. And I'm like, can I help? I mean, I want to help. Would you let me help? And he wrote to me a very lovely message. And he said, it's very hard for me to ask for help. And I usually push myself until I can't anymore. And I told him that's not healthy for you. And this is why we have problems with our young men and our fathers as well. It is not okay for you to push yourself to the limits, because that is where we get to a point where we are having suicidal thoughts, we are having depression, we are having stress to the point that it now becomes medical. We are having points where even not only suicidal thoughts, but people get to a suicide point. I always refer to this situation because it touched my heart, and I will get the link and then send it to you guys. There's a case study that was done by BBC in a town in Kenya, and this was, I think it was in Nyeri. However, do not quote me on this because I'm not sure which town it was, but it was a town in the central province of Kenya. And I feel that this actually sits very well in this situation. However, this was before the pandemic. And I am very sure with the statistics that Ellie just read in the beginning of the show has heightened the situation. Now, these men were in a village, and half of them had gone into depression. The other half were at the point of getting there. Now, the half that were in depression, the quarter of them were people who have already committed suicide. A whole quarter. And the rest are now trying to find out, how do we help our men? Our men are dying, our men are killing themselves simply because they gave reasons. They are dropped off of work, they have no livelihood anymore, they don't know how to support their families. Those were the three key points on why these men were actually drowning in depression. And this is a huge problem. Finances is a big thing in our culture, in any culture for that matter. However, with our society pinning the sole responsibility of provision in a family to a man is what is also making men feel the responsibility of, I have to take care of my family. A man can never go to his woman and say, hey, babe, I need this and this and that. Sadly, it has also been put as if a man who does that is a weak man. Fine, you're not going to borrow me money every time. However, I, as a woman, I am supposed to be able to support you from a point of, if I see that things are not going well. Remember also, for all those who are watching, the Proverbs 31 woman, if you believe in the Bible, is also a provider. So when I see that there's a problem, I need to be able to help, and you need to also let me come in and help as well. And that's the thing. You need to let me come in and help. Like I said, the young man that I asked, can I be of assistance? And he said, you know what? It was until the very last moment that he said, okay, because he realized that he cannot do it on his own. So this is a big problem. And admitting that you're not okay, admitting that you are getting to a point of helplessness, admitting that things are not okay before they completely go down the drain is not a sign of weakness. It is in fact a sign of strength, because you're willing to have a helping hand assist you up. We rise by raising each other. Have that mentality in mind as well.
Vicky, what do you make? And interesting facts you're mentioning there. I want to stick really in the family setup, and it could be any sort of family, of course. What do you make of a situation whereby a partner goes to their spouse and they tell them, I'm stressed? Or it could be simply be over a text message and tell you, I'm stressed. Uh, Things are not working out. And then the first answer you give, like, do you think I'm not stressed, or do you think your stress is more important? How about myself? How does this create commotion in the unit?
You see now, two wrongs, or rather two stressful factors, are not going to help each other. At the end of the day, one person has to be a sort of rational mind. Let's say that. Because at the end of the day, if my mind comes and tells me that I'm stressed, or my woman or whatever it is comes and tells me, hey, I'm stressed, and instead of me listening, I choose to tell them, oh, I also have a problem. Don't you think I'm stressed, and so on and so forth. Then we are getting to a point of battering heads. How are we supposed to help each other? How are we even supposed to sort that family out? That's why you see that we create commotion between our partnership. We now become distant because now I will be an individual who's stressed and I'm trying to sort myself out. He will be an individual who's stressed and he will try to sort himself out. And now it is also now going to our kids. Our kids are also stressed. Because they will feel, number one, they will feel the stress. And as we talked about before, they will not even know how to handle it. So who is going to help who? Because at the end of the day, it's at a point of, and you realize at that point, if I'm now going to sort my stress out and you're going to sort your stress out, who knows? Somebody might now go out to find somebody to give them peace outside the house. And then now all of a sudden you realize that your relationship is starting to break. You're starting to create a gap between your relationship. And now you realize you now break a family simply because one of you could not be rational enough to say, hey, we can seek therapy. Oh, hey, I can be of assistance. Let me put mine aside so that at least we deal with yours. And then once you're okay, we can deal with mine. You understand? And it's not a sign of weakness to say, hey, let me put mine aside, because at the end of the day, we are a unit. If we're not okay, we will not be able to handle this family and handle the unit as one. Family, no matter the circumstances or the dynamics of the family, is a unit and it's supposed to operate as one machine. Think about a car. If the steering wheel is not working, the car will not move. You're not going to tell the wheels, now wheels move, the steering wheel is it's just there. You can't do that. The wheels cannot move if the steering wheel is not moving. If the brakes are not working, do you know what will happen to your car if you force it to move? It will it will go and hit something and probably even dismantle itself. And that is what a lot of us do in our families. You realize that somebody is trying to move. Your brakes are not in order. That means your wife is not in order. She's not okay. You're still trying to force the family to push because you don't care about fixing your brakes first. What happens? Family kaputs. It breaks. That is exactly what that does. I am stressed. Deal with your own. I deal with my own. All of a sudden, it's no longer a unit. It's now we're selling parts. In Europe, you live and sell the kids. They will live and go somewhere else. If you're not careful, your kids will go somewhere else. Because now you're stressed. He's stressed. Who will take care of the children? In Europe, your children will go. They will go to a family that can be able to take care of them.
A second part of it, and I know we really must take a break, Victoria. We will take a break and we come back a little bit rejoinder on the same line, and then we go to the next part of this discussion. So for those who are joining us, remember this is the Family Edition coming to you every single Saturday from 9:30 p.m. East African time, 8:30 p.m. Central European Summer Time. We are hanging out with Victoria and Katha, but we are taking a break and we'll be right back after this. Okay, stay tuned.
If people are actually having mental instability, there's a lot of cases of depression, a lot of cases of suicide. We are supposed to speak about it. We are supposed to talk. We're supposed to create debates online and even out of social media with people and ask them, how can we deal with this? Yeah, because I think artists are the most depressed people, if you ask me. And I say this because I am an example myself. Yeah, but if we have these platforms, you realize that if I'm talking to you like right now, it is therapy for me.
Yes, the discussion is just part of the therapy, and that is a very interesting discussion we had last week with Sounds from Africa on Art in Heart. Do go it on YouTube, watch this episode if you didn't watch it, and remember to subscribe. I'm hanging out with Victoria and Kata, sitting in for Nyokabi GK Kamau. Tonight, he's the expert in the family matters, stress, and more so mental health. Victoria, welcome once again. So before we left Victoria, we were discussing about the family unit and things crumbling down. And one thing that struck me in this conversation is you realize when a spouse goes to the partner and says, I'm stressed, and then there is this and there's that, there's all those articulations that come into in between. There is always a golden word used by a lot of women, if I put it rightly, that I need space. So what space do you need to go where? Is it needed?
Ellie, sometimes, and you can really just correct me if this is not okay. However, it's not only me. I've been told I need space. I've been told. I cannot do this. I need to find myself. I've been told a lot of things, and this puts you at an awkward position, right? Because it creates this gap again. You feel as if you're not letting your partner in. Sometimes you just want to be there and be of support and help somebody. However, some people have really toxic traits. And I speak from experiencing some of them, where somebody says, you know what, I really can't be able to deal with you. I have to lock everything out because I need to sort myself out, right? I need to sort my issues out. I need to sort my situations out, and I need space. Now, this can be good and it can also be bad. Sometimes, if you need space for an hour to think, well and good. But if you're telling me that you need space and you want to now go out and sleep outside or be in some different room or in a different house and stay there for a week or two, that is dangerous, because now you're leaving me, the other partner, with the baggage. You're leaving me, and as I said, a family is a unit. If we're gonna move forward, we have to move forward together. You cannot take a part of the car and go with it and expect the car to function properly. It is paramount that we're able to help each other. We are a unit, we are one. When we decided to make a family, even bring kids onto this earth, we were actively there and we want to make it work. However, in some situations, things can also work when you're separated, to be honest. Don't get me wrong. However, in that situation when you're there, if you're not able to fix that right there, then you may realize that it might just be better to leave that situation. Because if we cannot be able to function together, then we'd rather function while we are apart. And that is not wrong either. However, why not try? And that is the problem we have in our generation. The slightest problem, the slightest hardship, we decide to disperse, because nobody wants, everyone wants soft life. Everyone wants relationship goals on Instagram. Everyone wants that. And now COVID has proven to us that soft life is not soft life. Couple goals is not traveling, because now we're stuck in the house together. Then there's no work. There's no influencer lifestyle that makes you travel abroad and post on Instagram. We have to deal with this together. It has really been a test of a lot of relationships and a lot of families. And to be honest, I really commend and compliment the couples and relationships that have been able, and families that have been able to stand firm and operate as a unit as well, despite the hardships. There's so many, if not 98% of families, providers, either one has lost their income, then it's definitely a huge percentage, definitely not less than 80%. And being able to sustain and move forward, understanding the simple dynamics of family is very, very important. So there's nothing like, I need space. Fine, I'll give you an hour. Go think, because at the end of the day, we still need to come back and find a solution. That is the only space I'm giving. But if you're telling me you want to go and live somewhere else, we have a problem. We really have a problem.
Okay, I hope we're not having any problems here, but just because we are talking about the very complex parts about this conversation, Vicky, somebody tells me, yeah, Ellie, you've told me that, you're stressed. You've equally told me that you've lost your job and things are not working out. And then the other part Victoria mentioned is that we are having the I need a space moment happening. But how would I know my family, somebody's actually suffering from a stressful situation? Like, you are now undergoing stress. What are the signs that this is not the normal or the abnormal behavior that this person is trying to bring out from them?
I like the question that you asked because it's very, very important. One of the things that you realize that somebody is dealing with stress, we mentioned the aspects of the children, right? Now we go to your partner. So once your partner starts behaving differently, and a lot of people usually think that behavioral changes are usually only depressive and sad and so on and so forth, you realize that somebody becomes extremely extroverted, right? Extremely outgoing and so on and so forth. Well, this is not their normal behavior. They might be wanting to mask the problem, yeah, by over exaggerating their happiness and their fulfillment or whatnot. They might be trying to mask that. Number two, the other thing that could now be the opposite of that is that somebody now becomes very, very an extroverted person, all of a sudden just shuts down. Yeah. So we have these two extremes. So it's usually either one or the other. Number two, somebody has lost lack of motivation in so many things, and including sex. You realize that your partner just does not want to be touched, does not want, and this is probably somebody who you guys were okay and things were working well, whatever schedule that you all had, it was working. But now you realize that somebody does not want to be touched, does not want to, as in they have lacked the morale whatsoever in things that brought pleasure. It could also be somebody does not even want to spend time, because pleasure does not only equate sex. Pleasure also goes into somebody used to play with their children, be very active in terms of, dealing with things. Maybe for a lady, they probably really liked making their hair, their nails, things that really brought them joy. Somebody just all of a sudden does not want this anymore. And they just sit down. You see, she doesn't want to take care of herself anymore. The guy always walks around in boxers and doesn't give a damn, honestly. And those are behavioral changes to just pinpoint, because a lot of people usually say, why is this one huyu ameanza kubadilika, nini shida yake ni nini, and then they say ni kimwanaume. That is what they say. You see, that is what they say. Tabia za kimwanaume.
So this thing that people have been saying, yeah, Kenyan men are not so tidy. They leave their beards. They walk in some strange attires. They don't even remember anything to do with their hair and how they look. It could be actually be stress because of the percentages of numbers you're reading about people.
Exactly.
And it's interesting you're mentioning it, Victoria.
And you realize that some people, you might really be judging somebody and be judging their untidiness based off of the fact that it's Kenyan men or whatnot. But you don't know the statistics are really true, because there are some people who are feeding into these statistics. You realize that a man doesn't feel like grooming himself anymore. And this is somebody that really used to take care of himself, somebody who would not miss a shave in a week. However, it's been 2, 3, 5 weeks. I mean, it's been a month. It's been 3 months, he has not done anything to himself. The lady, all of a sudden, her hair is like, and her nails are, and it's these things. And then you, instead of thinking that your partner is stressed, the first thing you think of is, what is this one? And untidy and cleanliness. And then you start thinking in very, very negative aspects towards your partner, rather than thinking, hey, there might be a problem over here, and trying to actively seek it. Especially with men, they won't tell you immediately. But if I'm gonna come to you, I'm gonna like, babe, I've realized that there has been this and that. So are you okay? You start out by being soft. You don't tell somebody, oh, you're depressed. You don't do you don't do that. You don't pick and tell them you're depressed, or you're now being unclean, you're dirty, kiwanome, and then kiwanome, or even worse yet, talking about your partner to other people, and even increasing their stress factor. So another point to note is when somebody also quite often, especially with our African men, and I'm so sorry, they become overly aggressive when they're stressed. And this we highly know. You realize that a man all of a sudden is screaming, nothing is satisfactory to him. You cook managu because there's no meat, and he will shout at you as if you're the reason. And you're really trying to make ends meet as well, right? So somebody becomes overly aggressive and to some degree also violent. This is also another thing to note. And to be honest, you might blame the person rather than trying to find the solution. And this is something that even our aunties can really tell you that they have done, is that instead of trying to find the solution, you now start pointing a finger at the man. The first thing you'll think, it's probably he's found another woman that and no, this man is stressed. He's going through something. Try and understand that first. Not that I'm gonna say everybody is like that. There's some of you that are. Anywho, we shall talk about that in another setting. Yeah, I know you want to say something. I know you want to say something.
Victoria,
Yes.
you realize that even as we discuss, there is the most important part of this conversation, which we have to actually start tackling. It's letting out the steam and letting it go. So how do you go about it, like, to be able to open up, and to open up enough and say, this is what I'm going through, I need you to hear me out? How do you start to have that conversation?
Your partner should be your best friend, number one. Your partner should be your best friend. It is very important that the person you're living under the same roof with, that you probably will be living with for very many years to come, is your best friend. Because if you cannot speak to them, it will be very, very difficult to even speak to anyone else. That is your confidence. That is your love. That leave even love aside. That is the person that you spend most of your time with. When you come back home from work, you are seeing that person. When you wake up in the morning, you're seeing that person. On the weekends, you will see that person. On a daily basis, you're seeing that same person. There's nobody else you're spending more time with. That should be your best friend, and the person who you'll be able to say, hey, I really feel that. I need help. And find solutions, try to find solutions. And even before we get there, you should be able to be courageous enough and willing enough to actually open up and speak. Because it doesn't even matter whether it's your parent or your partner or whatever. If it doesn't come from within you to actually say, hey, I want to seek help, then it couldn't even matter that it's your best friend. It couldn't even matter this is the closest person. As long as you're not willing to speak, you're never going to speak to anybody. You're never going to speak to anybody. Accept the fact that you need help, and then now start from where you are. Where you are. Start from the circle and the environments that you're in. If not your partner, try your parents. If not your parents, try a psychologist or a therapist. Quite often, that might actually be the best way, because this is a neutral ground. This is somebody who doesn't know you, and this is somebody who professionally has an NDA, non oh Lord,
Non-disclosure.
exactly.
Yeah.
Kimaru is our disclosure. has a non-disclosure agreement, and on their work basis they have to be confidential with the information that you give them. So if you feel that some information you can't share to your partner, because I know some men don't like sharing some things, you can go to a therapist. They will be able to help you navigate through what is stressing you, navigate through what you are having a hard time with. And these days, I know that there are also a lot of activists and psychological coaches that can be able to help you, because I know also seeking a therapist can also be very, very expensive. We have organizations such as Responding to Life that are dedicated towards this. And when it comes to the extreme cases, we refer you to other individuals that we're partnering with so that they can be able to help you and assist you. There are hotlines that are not too far. In every city, there are hotlines to be able to have you discuss from a point of view from a point of anonymity and openness, and they listen. And sometimes much of what you want and need is letting down the steam. It's actually just speaking out, and that helps you get to a point of now having a clear mind. Once you've let the steam out, you're now rejuvenated again to now, you know, position yourself at a point of, now I can see better, now I can visualize better, and now I can plan better. And sometimes people think it's very, very difficult. But to be honest, that moment of you have offloaded just to someone, you have offloaded, it really gets you to a point of, I now can figure this out. I now know what I need to do. I now have a clearer overview. Because once you cluster so much, that is where stress comes in. You're clustered. You have put so much in you and you've not let out. So that letting out is very, very important. Be careful that you don't cluster too much and explode to a point of there's no return. So be sure to hear the helplines exactly. Be sure to find the closest helpline if your environment is not conducive for you to speak out, because speaking can really be the genesis of healing. And not only healing, but it can also be the genesis of you finding results. So that's the only thing I would say. It starts from there. The rest is more technical. For instance, if the therapy does not work and you need clinical attention, you have to go the medical way, you have to go the real psychologist way, where you have sessions, days, and so on and so forth. Some have to go to some healing institutions. Others need medical care in form of medicine. And then you have, individuals who need someone to help them go through situations hand in hand. So it's really, really important for all this. I can see a comment that says, what happens to those people who just keep, I'm sorry for jumping into it. What happens to those people who just keep everything to themselves? That is exactly what we're trying to stop. Because as a result, most of the people who keep everything to themselves often do not end too far. And I say this with real, I mean, we read the statistics. We really read the statistics. Like I said, cluttering yourself and putting yourself in a situation where you're absorbing so much, it's like putting air into a balloon. You're putting air, you're not letting any out. You're putting air, you're not letting any out. The more you pump air into the balloon, the bigger it gets. And that is what happens to you as well. The more air you're putting in, and at some point, the balloon will explode. And at some point within you, you might get to a point of no return, because you get stressed. You're putting in, you're putting in. And that's where we start seeing people with depression. That's how we start seeing people who need to go to institutions. That's where we see that people need to really, really get to they get to an extreme case. That's why we sadly also see people get suicidal thoughts. That's why we also sadly see others who end up killing themselves or committing other outrageous things. That's why we see people having addictions such as substance abuse and much, much more. So it can really get to a point of extreme. There are people who take longer to get to extreme levels. There are people who take very much shorter time to get to extreme levels. But at the end of the day, the more you absorb without pushing out, the more you'll get to a point of exploding.
Indeed, Vicky, and important facts you're mentioning there. You know, don't let it balloon inside, because eventually it's gonna burst out. And for everybody that is contributing to this conversation and watching in a lot of attendance, thank you so much, sir. That's Frida Nguku. Thank you so much. Very avid follower of Recently. We appreciate you. Stress management, important topic to discuss. Aran Jonjo. Commander Muguna, thank you so much for coming to the discussion, and everybody that is out there watching and listening into this discussion. I want us to go back to the details that I've actually screened on your screen, and if you can go through, Vicky, just to read them through.
Yes, so the Kenya Red Cross on 1199 Safaricom, that's 1199 Safaricom. Follow the instructions and request emergency services. The service is available 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
Yes, and you can equally contact LVCT. I think that's Liverpool VCT on 1190 Safaricom line. Of course, offers a range of services, including mental health. So you can equally follow the instructions and request for mental health emergency services. These services are equally available 24 hours a day. So, you know, you have all the help you need. Equally, you can contact Mental 360, which offers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Telephone services on that number, that is 077 65 43 099. And if you're 25 years of age or under, then you can visit the Kenyan National Hospital, that is KNH Youth Center, located on the second floor of the main block. And there you can have free psychotherapy and psychiatric services, which are offered every Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, Vicky, what is standing out is actually the initiatives that are out there with our government to help people that are suffering from mental health situations. So you don't have to stay home and say, sina pesa, okay? And you do not have to be in solitude and isolate yourself. Yes, Vicky.
The free for 25 years and under does not count for us, Eli.
Well, but you see, it's important that you mentioned that, but equally, the young people are now the most vulnerable when it comes to this. We've talked about the family situation, but I know people that have said, my son committed suicide.
Yeah.
Okay. People will say suicide, depends on the school and if it was Abu Kada or ABCD, so you can excuse me for that. But the point here is young people are vulnerable, and that's why I think this age bracket has been given. Because we assume just because they have no other responsibilities, then they do not suffer from any mental stressful situations. I will tell you something very personal, that there's a very young man in my family circle that actually suffered stroke at the age of 15. And to date, all the arrows are pointing towards stress and depression. So we might take things so lightly, and you could lose somebody that you don't really need to lose. So, you know, use those numbers, those services that we put out there. Again, we can equally screen them on your screen so that you get the help you need. If you need help, kindly reach out for it. And Vicky is here with Responding to Life. She's like a hotline. So you can always reach out to Vicky. And if the line doesn't go through for various reasons, just drop a message. She'll get back to you. Vicky, any conclusion remarks as we close down?
No, I just want to say thank you very much for this discussion. It's very, very important, especially in our family settings. Also for our kids, remember that your kids can also suffer stress, and it's very, very paramount that you are attentive. Attentive, because your kids are not going to come to you and tell you they're stressed. They don't even know what stress is. And by kids, I mean from below teenage, and so they are not going to come and tell you that they're stressed, because half of them don't even know what stress is. All of them don't know what stress is, so they're not going to be able to speak it out. So be attentive to all the things that we noted, and if you weren't part of it, please go back and watch again. We did discuss how to note these symptoms with your kids, so that you also can be able to get to a better family situation. Also, remember that with family, we just need to operate as a unit and operate at a level where we understand that the car cannot move without parts, and you cannot go with the car without one of the tires. So if we operate it as a unit, and if we stick to positivity and that mindset, then we can be able to help each other be whole as a family unit. And other than that, seek the help that you need. It is very, very important. You're not weak for seeking help, especially the men. You are not weak for seeking help. So speak out and get the help that you need. It's very, very important. And with that said, my name is Victoria Nkatha, and thank you for tonight.
Thank you so much for everybody that came to the show. And of course, we appreciate your contribution and comments in the comment section. We do invite you to continue following through the discussions. Every Sunday we have, against all odds, from 9:30 p.m. East African time, that is 8:30 p.m. Central European Summer Time. Do join me with my guest tomorrow. You'll find out who she is. Of course, it had to be a she. For this and many more discussion, remember to join Victoria Nkatha on Responding to Live on Facebook, Instagram, and of course on YouTube. She has 100 days off. Victoria?
Happiness. It's the mental
Exactly.
month.
Exactly. Go there. She has a great information for you. Remember to hit the like, subscribe, and share button once you're there, and turn on the notification button, because you never know what comes your way. I leave you with this and have a great night. My name is Likuyani Eli. Good night.